Here we go.
Yes.
Hey everybody, Heidi Hurst with Windermere Abode here, talking to my dear, dear friend, Steve Pflasterer. He is located in the Washington, D.C. area. Steve is a lover of where he lives. He is on social media showing us all the cool things that he finds when he's out exploring. He's got great stories. He's also in the D.C., I might not have this right, Washington, D.C. Gay Men's Choir.
Yes.
I've seen some of his performances online, and just a wonderful, human being. My husband and I, Tim, we went to DC a couple years ago, and Steve, just took us around and was just a wonderful influence for us there. But what I really love about Steve is that I met him at my very first Peak Experience event, which is through Buffini and Company, which is why we're doing this series, because I know so many wonderful people across the country. And we know that so many people are on the move now, trying to get closer to family or switching jobs or just being able to work from home. So I just wanted to have these quick conversations with people to find out what's happening in their market, and to gather information and to share. And so this is just a lovely conversation we're about to have. And so Steve, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, we do know some wonderful people all across the country, don't we? We've been so fortunate and blessed to actually be connected over the years with people who just are really experts and professionals in their fields and in their marketplaces. So I'm blessed to have you as part of my life, and Tim as well. So it's good. I've been in the business for 22 years here in the DC area. I'm licensed in Maryland, the district, and Virginia.
Okay.
We have 3 jurisdictions. I have to get CE credits for each jurisdiction every 2 years. So you have to be on top of your game and know your stuff in all 3 jurisdictions. They're somewhat similar, but not in all things. So it keeps me on my toes to do that. I live in DC.
Mm-hmm.
My home is about maybe 20 blocks from the White House, north of the White House. If any of you watching this have any sense of what Washington is like and how it's laid out, that's where I am. Bought my house in 1989. It's a 3-story brick Victorian that was built in 1910. So our architecture in the main portion of the city, the old portion of the city, is row houses, attached row houses. We also have more suburban detached homes in the areas of the city that are a little further out. And then obviously we have suburban areas as well. So all kinds of housing stock is available, condos as well. So it's an interesting and diverse area. So I really, really enjoy living here. Lots of culture, lots of politics, and all kinds of good things that go on here.
Right, right. Well, the question is always, why do people come to your city, and what do you love about where you live? So I'll let you answer that question. We can make an assumption, but tell us if outside of maybe politics or inside of politics.
And probably not as much as people might think. I always get the question, when there's a change of administration, does that mean that there's a lot of people coming and going? And kind of not really. Okay. It's sort of an urban myth. I think people, if they come here for a political job, they actually stay here. They don't go back to Kansas. So that's sort of an interesting dynamic of that. Mm-hmm. We also have a very, very good biotech business corridor here, both in Virginia and Maryland, and lots of science-based stuff that's here. And also, if you remember, Amazon is building their second headquarters in Arlington, Virginia. So that's very close to DC as well. So there's a lot of tech stuff that goes on here too. So it's not just government. I think at one point in time it was sort of a one pony show, but not any longer.
Okay. And what do you love about where you live? You already talked about culture, but specifically maybe where you live.
Well, I love the proximity to being in the middle of everything. It does feel like an international city. We're a small city, actually. When I moved here from Chicago in the late 80s, I felt like I had moved to a cow town, quite honestly. Chicago is a big city. It's very much like New York. But when I moved to Washington, it was much smaller. The density is much less. We're a very low-rise city. It feels very European because there's a there's a height limit on the building. New builds can only be, usually it's about 12 to 14 stories in the city. Nothing can taller than the Capitol Dome. So that's one of the things that keeps us more manageable in terms of size. Certainly get out of the city. You know, we have traffic just like every other metropolitan area. Proximity to New York, of course, in the last year, not too much traveling, you know, to other places, but certainly, you know, at some point in time, we'll be doing some traveling, and hopefully you and Tim will come back this way at some point in time. Love to show you around again. But yeah, it's just a great city. And I love the architecture. That's one of the reasons why I bought my house 30 years ago. I just love the old architecture. I must be an old soul because it speaks to me. And I just enjoy the details in the old buildings.
Oh, that's great. That's great. Thanks for sharing that. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I know that I happen to have some clients that I helped sell their home here, and you helped Belinda and Kwame last year purchase. So I heard a little bit of what was happening in the market last summer. And so tell us a little bit what's happening right now.
Well, so it's even more intense than it was then. I spoke with Belinda a couple of weeks ago, and we were just kind of laughing about how intense it was then. And I said, oh, it's even more intense now. And I'm really pleased that they purchased when they did. It is challenging. And I actually ratified an offer on a listing of mine last night. We had 3 offers. The property was listed for $739,000. 2 of the 3 offers were cash offers, and the property will ultimately sell for about $800,000, which is $60,000 over the list price. I don't need to get into a lot of numbers here. I'm not trying to, you know, talk about, you know, big expensive properties, but it's an area that people are looking. The demand is there, and the inventory is not. And I think that's, as you know, talking to agents all over the country, they're pretty much saying the same thing everywhere. The demand is outstripping the inventory of what's available for purchase.
Yeah, we're seeing that here too. We have, I don't have legit stats off the top of my head about a month ago, we had about a week's worth of inventory. Could that have changed in the last 3 weeks? Possibly, but we're not seeing that.
It's 1 to 5 days right now, right?
I know. Yeah, and homes that are on the market for more than 5 days, all the buyers are saying, what's wrong with this house? So it's a really interesting time in our market, and I know it's unprecedented for me. I've been in the business 16 years. You've been in 22. We have friends across the country who've been in the business much longer, and we're all just trying to represent our buyers and do the best we can to help them get into a home, because around here we're seeing continued appreciation. And as I was explaining to some clients, we sent out an email to our buyers and just said, it's bonkers right now. So, you know, if you don't go all in right now on your $500,000 house, in 30 days, it's going to start at $575,000. And so we're seeing at least 10 to 20% appreciation, or prices going up. And then you got to compete at $575,000 and go higher than that. So we just were really like, we don't want you to pay more for a house, but you know, 15 years ago, we were convincing people, our sellers, that they had to drop their price $50,000 in order to keep up with the depreciating market. So anyways, I'll get off of my my discussion about that, but that's what's happening around here.
You're absolutely right. It's very, very challenging. So the folks who are getting themselves pre-approved and putting themselves in the best position possible are the ones who are going to win in those bidding wars and so forth. I've had the opportunity of actually helping a couple of sellers find off-market properties, and that's challenging as well. And it's also challenging if someone needs to sell to purchase. And so that's a difficult conversation to have, whether we decide to go ahead and market your home, and then you move into a rental for a period of time until we find the home that you can then move into. So the double move is not a popular option. I don't like suggesting it, but it's sometimes that's the solution, is to figure out other ways of skinning the cat, so to speak.
Right. And I think it has to do with, like, why are they moving? I mean, we've had some people who are like, oh, last year I'm worried about the election, so I think we need to sell our house. The economy, I'm like, I'll put my reputation to the fact that there's not enough houses in the Pacific Northwest, in Tacoma, Pierce County. And if you hold on to it, it'll be worth more. So Tim's like, why are you talking people out of selling their house? I'm like, they don't have any place to move, and they don't need to sell their house. And so I'm just encouraging them to make really good decisions and make the decision that's right for them and giving them that information that they need. So yeah.
That's absolutely right. And as their trusted advisor, your priority is to give them good advice and to explain to them what their options are and then allow them to make the decision. And even if it means not selling their home right now, they will remember that you were honest and fair and treated them with respect and had their best intentions at heart. And they will come back to you and they will refer people to you.
Exactly. That's who we are, aren't we, Steve? We're those types of people. So yeah, about the relationship. Thank you. Thank you for commenting on that. So, thanks for sharing. If anybody needs to move to the DC, Maryland, or Virginia area, Steve is your man. And he helped my dear friends, like I mentioned already, Belinda and Kwame last year in a really competitive market. He was super communicative. He was really professional, has the biggest heart, really cares about our clients and his clients. And so I will always send my referrals to Steve, and I appreciate you taking the time here. But before we get off, what are you listening to? Any podcasts? Do you have a favorite song right now? Are you reading like a book that is just mixing up your world? Tell me a little bit about something fun.
I don't have a favorite podcast. I do listen to Brian Buffini pretty regularly. I've done some ninja things. So this is all real estate sort of related. I geek out on the real estate stuff. So it's not something that, just anybody off the street would have interest in. So I just received this book, One Question by Ken Coleman, as a gift from Linda Johnson in Arizona. So I'm going to be reading this as well. So that's a good place to start, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have a great story I'm going to share about Steve, and it's really about me, but it's about Steve. So when I first went to my first peak,
it's always about you, though.
Yeah, but when I went to my first peak experience, and I want you to comment on this, I sat and said my goal was to meet a guy. I really wanted to meet a guy. Here's what he's going to look like. Here's what's going to happen. And I'm going to make it happen. And about a month later, I met my now husband, Tim. So Steve was part of that conversation. Tim is my business partner. He's our buyer's agent. He is Mr. Communication. And Steve was part of that conversation.
Mr. Cool.
Yeah.
Mr. Cool. Yeah. Awesome man. Awesome man.
Yeah. And so, and then Tim was in the same kind of a group with Steve when he went to the Peak Experience through Buffini and Company, and got to know him too. So Steve is a dear, dear friend of ours, and we just appreciate that you are one of the people that stands for us and stands behind us and lifts us up. So we are very happy to be friends with you and to
as well,
and count you as a true professional in our world. So thank you, Steve. Thanks for your time today.
Absolutely. Anytime. So good to see you this afternoon.
Yeah. Anybody who's watching this, hey, Steve knows also the best of the best brokers across the country. So if you are watching this or listening to this and following up and think you've got a friend or family member that's moving out of the state or moving within the areas that Steve serves, please reach out to him. Steve, do you want to give us your phone number and your email, or how we can find you?
Yes, my phone number, 202 is the DC itself, 202-669-0714. And my email address is a Gmail address. So it's DC home, the number 4, YOU, 2 at gmail.com. That's home or you2 at gmail.com.
That's brilliant. Thanks so much. Thanks, Steve. Have a wonderful week. Go win with your clients. Take care.
All right.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Oh, I'm going to stop recording. Ta-da. Bye.